What is happening, people? Welcome everyone to In the End Zone UK. Thank you for joining our weekly American football podcast. This is episode number 16. So if you haven't already, go and give our page a follow on Instagram. Lots to find out, lots of up-to-date news and stats all dropping on that Instagram page, as well as when we drop our weekly post, the dates and times will be posted beforehand. So just search End Zone UK, In the End Zone UK. This week, we will be looking on a more and ever important game week 15 in the NFL. We are 2 days from Christmas, so we are wishing you a very merry time. Before I can continue, though, I need to introduce the other half of the In the End Zone team. He's not as jolly as Father Christmas, but he's just as fat. Across the mic, it's Big Dave. How are we going, Big Dave?
I am very fat, like Santa. No, we're all good to go, ready for Christmas. That joyous time of the year when you spend money on everybody and you get a pair of socks and a can of deodorant in return. It's one of my favourite times.
Speaking the pure truth there, Dave. Nothing but the truth. Well, this week's episode, because of Christmas, is going to be called Santa's Snow Bowl Snubs. That probably means nothing to our listeners. Santa's Snow Bowl Snubs. The reason for this is we are talking Pro Bowl, so the play on words being Snow Bowl. And if you don't know what the Pro Bowl is, this has just been released in the NFL. These are players that have been voted for their performance during the year. The best players in their position all get voted into NFC and AFC teams, obviously split by division. At the end of the year, historically, each team then plays each other in a friendly game of football. However, because these are fan votes, some very good players can miss out because it basically becomes some kind of popularity contest and not necessarily about who plays the best ball. So me and Dave are going to talk Pro Bowl or Snow Bowl, and we're going to give who we believe to be missing off Santa's Pro Bowl nice list and who should be on Santa's Pro Bowl naughty list. We'll be getting to that a little bit later in that segment, Santa's Snubs. But before we go into that one, we're going to return with our favourites and with our favourite segment of the week, which is Slap or Sign. So Dave, so many things happened this week. So many playoff potentials have been ruined. So many opportunities are still out there. But what we're talking about is what players either helped their team or did them no service whatsoever. We want to hear who's being slapped and who's being signed. Give me your first slap for the NFC.
I am slapping a man that I have slapped probably a couple of times now, but it's so frustrating to watch the giraffe-necked gimp week after week after week. It is draining the soul clean out of my body. He is a creature. He looks like Earthworm Jim. His name is Mike Glennon. Mike Glennon is a moth. He is a creature. He is currently... I don't even want to say he's the starting quarterback because they've not named the starting quarterback for this week going forward. But at the minute, with Daniel Jones out for the season, it's a toss-up between Mike Glennon, and I'll just spoil the next bit. My sign for this week isn't some superstar quarterback. It's Jake Fromm, who is the other quarterback. That's our number 3 quarterback. And I'm going to tell you why. So Mike Glennon has played in 3 games since Daniel Jones got hurt. We've been blown out in all 3. We've conceded a total of 65 points and scored a mere miserable 29. He has thrown 2 touchdown passes and 5 interceptions.
That's shocking.
He is such a crap quarterback. How he's got a job in the national, how he's getting paid, what I'm assuming is small millionaires, but probably
millions,
still 2 or 3 million to be a backup quarterback, breaks my soul. And Jake Fromm was signed off the Bills practice squad. He got a run out last week. In one drive, he had 80 plus yards in the final drive. And yes, he was probably playing against the Cowboys secondary defense because they'd already pulled most of the starters in the game because they'd already slapped us. But in the first 3 quarters, well, 3.5 quarters, Mike Glennon had produced less than 100 yards. So I just want to see someone new. I want to give him a chance because you don't know how good he could be. So he got to the college football playoffs, to the final game, the championship game, and he came up short in that. But at Georgia, he beat out good quality quarterbacks from other places, other 5-star recruits that wanted to be there. So he's obviously a good quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
He had a shocking pro day, which meant he slipped to like the 5th round. But he looked all right. I don't want to say that he looked like Patrick Mahomes or he looked like Josh Allen, but he looked 50 times better than Mike Glennon. He was decisive with what he was doing. He was controlling the game, or controlling the team at the line of scrimmage. He was shouting at people, getting them moving. He came in with a sense of urgency. And what he did do, he threw about 8 passes, but drove us from one end of the field to the other.
Which Mike Glennon didn't do all day.
All game, no.
Mm-hmm.
He targeted, so before that drive, we were targeting like our better players, maybe like once a drive. He was throwing the ball specifically to the best wide receivers constantly. And that's, Golladay, I think, got five, I think out of 8, he tried to pass the ball at 8 times to Golladay. Do you know what I mean? Getting it in the hand of our best playmaker.
Yeah.
When you're trying to drive, obviously you can't keep passing to Saquon because he's in the backfield, but
it's one of those things you've got to try, isn't it? Because Glennon's old.
Yeah, he brought a bit of freshness to the team, and I think that's what I'm missing. He could come on, he could be absolutely shocking, but I can't see Glennon again. If Glennon's played, I'm not watching the game. I can't watch it.
No. I mean, slapped him. I think you slapped him last week, and you slapped him. So that's 2 consecutive weeks, which means you're clearly frustrated with the guy, especially considering he plays the Giants. But you just have to look at it and think, okay, Jake Fromm, he was drafted in the 5th round. Nobody's given him a chance yet. He's come off a practice squad, etc., etc. All you got to know is Tom Brady, he was a 6th round pick. Number 199. You just never know until you get the chance. It's better than playing Glennon, because you already know what Glennon is. You know exactly what he is. He's not had a chance, like Jake Fromm's not had a chance, whereas Glennon has had every chance to succeed in about 6 different teams. I can't remember where he's been, but I know he was at the Bears. I think he was at the Bucks. He's been everywhere, and he's been shit everywhere he's gone. And now it looks like he's literally just on his way out of the Giants. I don't know why you're playing him. Don't know why they didn't even give Jake Fromm like half a game last week, because the game was done after half time. So your NFC sign is Jake Fromm, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to see him play. At least I need to see that he's no good or good. Do you know what I mean? Because he could potentially be the backup for next season if he's good. Keep him about. Because it looks like we're going with Daniel Jones next year, so might as well have a young up and comer behind him, especially if he's going to push it in for that starting position. You know, it'd be nice to see.
100%. Okay, fine. And moving across then to the AFC, who are you going to sign from the AFC?
I don't like doing this because I don't particularly like him, but I'm signing Patrick Mahomes. Ooh. You signed him last week. I'm signing him this week.
Go on, give us your reasons.
Well, he threw for 400 yards, and I would literally wank a dead donkey off for a Giants quarterback to throw for 400 yards in a game. Yeah, they seem to be about now the 1 seed in the AFC. I think the record's 10-4. There's a lot of 10-4s going around, but at one point they were 1-3 or 1-4. So he's dragged them right the way up there. They're probably, I think they've got the best winning record at the minute in the league. Mm-hmm. And he's finding them weapons that he wasn't potentially finding at the start of the season. I mean, what more do you need to say? It's Patrick Mahomes, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. So signing Mahomes.
Yep.
Absolutely music to my ears. And then who are you slapping from the AFC?
Oh, this man's been slapped before for the exact same reason, and I'll be surprised if you aren't slapping him also.
Okay.
John Harbaugh.
That is also my slap of the week.
The coach of probably 2 birds with 1 stone here then. The coach of the Ravens, again, went for it on 2nd down, again, came up short. I'm talking absolute wind here. Went for a 2-point conversion to try and win the game, rather than using the best kicker in the history of the NFL just to tie the game, with an extra point. They went for 2, came up short. Packers get the win.
Mm-hmm.
In a conference, in a division that's so competitive at the minute, because there's no real, probably take the Chiefs out of it, there's no real standout great team in the AFC. The Ravens are in with a shot at getting into the playoffs and getting a good seed in, and you throw it away for stuff like that. They want the balance of the what's how am I going to describe it? The momentum was all in their favour.
Yeah,
it got Rodgers out for a couple of free and outs, and then they were driving down the field with Huntley, whatever his name is, their quarterback, who looks like an uglier version of Lamar Jackson, but can do everything that Lamar Jackson can do.
Uglier than Lamar Jackson.
Yeah,
that's hard to do.
Yeah, they drove down, tied the game up. Pretty much, or they could have tied it. All they needed to do was put the extra point across, and they've not bothered. Gone for it on second down. Gone for the 2-point conversion to try and win the game. I get it, but you're not in a position where you need to win to win like that.
No.
Take your chances in. I know it's difficult because you're playing Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, but you put 30 points on them. What's to say you won't put points in overtime?
Mm-hmm.
And they flopped it. So yeah, he's getting slapped. This is the second time he's done it. The man's an idiot.
Exactly. And then, I mean, I'll move into mine then as you've slapped the same person as me. So my first AFC slap is John Harbaugh as well. Slapping him for very, very similar, if not the same reasons as you. My main issue is the fact that, I mean, he's, before the start of the game, me and you were talking, and I was telling you how good a coach I think he is. And you said the same. We both said that guy is a class coach. Like, imagine having him, because he's amazing. He's a very good coach. He's got stones. He's got the bollocks. He goes for things when he needs to. He puts trust in his best players. However, I think that you can be too much of that. And that's what he has now become to be. I don't know whether it's ego. I don't know whether it's the fan favourite, because a lot of people do like him because of that. He goes for things, and he's very aggressive in his coaching. But my issue is, you played the Vikings not too long ago. You did the same thing. You could have tied the game and gone into overtime, which historically we know the Vikings are not great in overtime. And you could have, I think it was the Vikings, might have been the Steelers, I can't remember. But either way, a very beatable team in overtime. He went for it, dropped his bollocks out into a wheelie bin and went, do you know what? I'm going for it. I'm going to win this game with a 2-point conversion rather than tying the game. He didn't. You look at that and you go, that's a bit of a strange call, John, but fair play. You went to win the game. You were aggressive. Same principle happens, except you've lost one more game because of your previous decision. You could be going to the playoffs, as you mentioned, very, very easily, by the way, in terms of the caliber of the AFC under the Chiefs. And you go, do you know what? And you drop your bollocks out into a wheelie bin again and go, right, I'm going for it again. And you don't get it. So that's 2 games that have hung in the balance of the coach. And unfortunately, you want to put the trust in your players, but those players have just slogged it out for 60 minutes, which is actually more like 3 hours worth of pure graft. And because of your sort of selfish, aggressive style decision that you think, do you know what, we can win this now against the Packers, you've gone and ruined 2 games worth of the team's fucking pure effort. And you want to be able to say, yeah, I've got trust in it. But you've got backup quarterback in there as well. It's not even like that you've got Lamar this time. You've got Huntley. He's not as good, and Lamar couldn't get it done. So don't do it. Just don't do it. And so, yeah, I'm slapping him because he's put the Ravens in a really tough position now, because, I mean, they're still near the top of the AFC and they're only 8-6, which says a lot about the AFC. But if you turn one of those games around, you're 9-5 or you're 10-4. Like, that's such a massive swing in the AFC. You're in the playoffs at that point, guaranteed. You can rest up. You can start to get players healthy. At this point now, they're still having to play competitive football to make the playoffs. So John Harbaugh, as good as a coach as he is, and he fucked up, and he needs to be held accountable.
I just don't. I really don't get it. If you're risking it all on one play, that if you get it, yeah, you win the game. I understand that. But if you take it to overtime, you've not got some scrub kicker, you've got the best kicker. take it to overtime.
The best kicker as well.
Yeah,
Ever.
and then you only have to either score a touchdown, so you're then empowering your team again to go and score a touchdown, but you've got more than just one chance to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And if all else fails and it goes to shit, you've got a bloke who can make 60-yard field goals. Like, it's me lifting the toilet lid. Do you know what I mean? It's not.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't difficult for him, but I don't know. Anyhow, moving on.
That's what happens.
Who are you going to sign from the AFC?
So from the AFC, I'm signing somebody from the same team that you signed them from, but this week I'm signing Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce from the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, you signed Mahomes, I signed Kelce. One way or the other, vice versa. They both obviously complement each other massively in the way in which they play. Travis Kelce had a career day in terms of yards, and that's saying something for a man who holds the tight end receiving record anyway. At 190, is it 191? So he had 191 yards off 10 receptions and 2 touchdowns. That is a monster of a day for a wide receiver, somebody who's half his size and twice his speed. That's a monster day for any player. To have 191 yards as a tight end is phenomenal. And he had a walk-off game-winning touchdown in overtime. Now, if you're the Ravens, you got to look at that and be like, that's how you fucking do it. You square it away, you go into overtime, and you win the game properly. And that's exactly what they did. I mean, Travis Kelce, he's been very quiet at the start of the season. He's made the Pro Bowl, which some people would have definitely questioned halfway through the season. He'd have probably got there anyway on just pure legacy because fans love him. But at the same time, he has turned it on in the last 4 games, I think. And to a level where you have to just look at it and you can't just say, oh yeah, he's playing pretty good now. 191 yards from a tight end. There's not many tight ends that could ever do that on their best day. So yeah, he smashed it. And Mahomes obviously plays a part, but I just think that he deserves every sign that he's getting, and that's what he's got.
Yeah, he's an animal, and he's one of three tight ends, I think, that are just playing out this planet at the minute. Mm-hmm. Him, Mark Andrews, and
George
Kittle.
Yeah.
So, and Mark Andrews is very sort of similar build to Kelce or Kelsey, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah.
He had a great game as well for the Ravens. Yeah. But I think at the minute he's just so powerful, and his run after catch he was demolishing folk, and he ain't the quickest.
No.
He's just got that Gronk build where he can people can't tackle him. He's just too big.
Yeah, and he makes smart decisions on the catch as well. He's he's not very fast, but he's quite elusive for a big dude.
Yeah, powerful runner. Sweet. Okay, on to the NFC. Mm-hmm. Who are you going to sign from the NFC?
This week from the NFC, I'm going to sign a group of people who go by the Saints defense. So I am signing the entire Saints defense. I couldn't pick which one was the most impactful. They all did what they needed to do as a unit. You know, Brady got sacked, so they played the Tampa Bay Bucks. The GOAT, Brady got sacked. He got picked off. He got hurried. He got rushed. They couldn't run the ball on the Saints. They couldn't throw the ball on the Saints. The Saints shut the Tampa Bay Buccaneers out. So basically, that's a fat goose egg on the scoreline. That means Tampa Bay, Tom Brady, the greatest of all time, scored 0 points against his Saints defense. And so that's why I'm signing him. Plain and simple as that. You don't shut the GOAT out. He has not been shut out for 15 years. 15 years. That's longer than most people's careers that he's never been shut out by. And that's just a massive achievement for the Saints. And the Saints have done this so many times to Tom Brady. Not a shutout, but a total eradication. Right? Eradication?
We're going to make some words up and say eradication.
Eradication. A total eradication of Tom Brady. Where they've just made his life difficult. Every time he plays him in the regular season, they make it difficult for him. And if the Saints are winning games this year, let's be honest, they haven't been winning them on offense. They have not been winning them on offense. They made Rodgers' life a misery in the first game of the season. They've done it a few times. They've been up and down, but they've done it a few times to good quarterbacks. And I think that's really hard to do. So I'm signing the Saints because they shut Tom Brady out for the first time in nearly 2 decades.
He cannot beat the Saints in the regular season, can he? What is that about?
It's weird.
They only scored 9 points, three field goals. I mean, we'll get onto that a little bit later on, but
yeah.
I mean, to be honest, there ain't a lot to talk about, but yeah, they can't beat the Saints in the regular season. Playoffs seems to be different, but
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, the stinker broke a tablet.
He did, yeah. Had a right Mardy, threw a Microsoft tablet on the floor.
Gobbed off at a Saints coach.
Yeah, I quite like that. He told the Saints coach to go fuck himself.
Yeah.
Go on, Tom.
So yeah, no, great signing. And only good teams apparently can beat the Saints. So the Giants could be Super Bowl contenders. As if we beat the Saints.
I know, it's mad.
Anyhow. Sweet, who are you going to slap from the NFC?
So my final slap of the day, and it is a massively justifiable one, is I'm signing, and tell me if you've heard of this name before, because I don't think I had, or if I had, I'd never remembered it. But I'm slapping Sean Hocules.
No idea who he is. Oh, I know. Oh, okay, yeah. I think I do know where you're going. He's not a player,
exactly.
Is he?
So Sean Hocules and his crew are the referees that refereed the Seahawks and Los Angeles Rams game. I'm slapping the life out of Sean Hocules, literally back and forth until his frail old frame cannot stand it any longer and he drops to his knees, because he is useless. The Seahawks lost this game, and I'm not saying that they definitely would have won if there'd have been a different call, but some of the calls in this game were atrocious. They were blatantly missed. They should have been re-reviewed by New York and the teams that they've got in in the NFL booths. But the final play that was like the massive error was a 4th down play. Seahawks were down by 7. They were, I don't want to say marching down the pitch, but they were on the comeback. Give the ball to Russell Wilson with 7 points underneath with 2 minutes left. He's always got a chance. And on 4th down, we sent DJ Dallas, who is a running back, on a bit of an end around go route as a running back. And Russ put a nice little floaty ball towards him, slightly underthrown, but it was a catchable ball. And the one of the Rams defenders, don't even know who he is, a no-name scrub, just jumped all over DJ Dallas before he could make the catch, which is an illegal move. It's pass interference. It's blatant pass interference. He sort of chopped away at his arm so that he couldn't even attempt to make the pass. And the refs just walked past like they had fucking blindfolds on. And the pass wasn't called for pass interference. Then a flag was dropped, and I thought, oh, sweet, okay, it's a late call. They're calling it. And they dropped a flag for unsportsmanlike conduct on DJ Dallas because he booted the ball in frustration. So not only did we not get the penalty, the Rams got a 15-yard unsportsmanlike penalty. Absolutely fucking atrocious. There should be methods around this. And I've seen a tweet from Adrian Peterson that's dropped yesterday about how many of these big calls affect the actual outcomes of not just games, but seasons, like those types of calls need to be reviewable. And it is difficult because coaches may end up trying to review pass interferences left, right and centre. But if you can have one challenge a game that you can potentially use on a PI or a holding call that you can actually challenge as a play, and they can run that and it takes 30 seconds. If you're challenging everything else on the pitch, why can't you challenge that? Because the Saints have lost out to playoff positions because of this type of thing. The Vikings have been on the receiving end of bad calls in the playoffs. Cowboys against Green Bay a few times as well. Not that I give a shit about them, but in the regular season, when the Seahawks are still in playoff contention at this point and still have a chance to potentially beat the Rams in a divisional match, which means a lot, for them to not call that pass interference is atrocity. It's bullshit. It's absolute fucking baloney. Refs should be fined the same way players are, but like heavily.
Yeah, I seen the ref was stood. You couldn't. There was only 3 people who were close to that ball, and one of them was a ref. It was it was blatant. He just ran straight into the player. He ran into DJ Dallas, hit his arm, and the ref just stood there. I tell you, shit teams don't get good calls. I'm not saying the Seahawks aren't playing.
Oh no, the Seahawks are a shit team, Dave. We're in that bracket now. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't get them, and they tried it like not last season, the season before, didn't they? Where you could review a pass interference call. And I think the issue is they don't want to seem as though the refs are making bad decisions. Like everyone can see it, but the NFL won't come out and be like, yeah, that was a shit call, what we're actually going to do. So what they need to do, I think, because I don't think you could give the coaches the challenge, because like they did before, they were just challenging every fucking play till they got one. And they still didn't give them it. There needs to be an alternate group of people that aren't referees. So the people that are in New York that do the replays, they're all attached and they're all part of like the referee circuit. There needs to be a separate group of people who don't give a fuck about the teams, don't give a fuck about the refs, and they just go, that was pass interference, fucking put the ball there, and the refs have to do it. And they should be fined. Whoever that linesman was, because it's not necessarily if the ref, the main ref, the head official, didn't see it, or wasn't close enough to, but you're slapping his team, aren't you, and him? Yeah. If he wasn't close enough to see it, he probably can't throw a flag, do you know what I mean? Because he didn't see it, or whatever. But the bloke who was stood directly looking at it, 2 meters away, he should be banned for the rest of the season. They should be like, right, you made a complete no call there when you blatantly saw it. You're done for the season. Yeah. And it should have an impact on whether they can then go on and become these headlight referees and stuff.
You know, like, because it was under such scrutiny and it came up on the Jumbotron like a massive replay. Don't you think if that happens, I know the play's dead and whatever, but when the play stopped because it was 4th down, when they see that, don't you think that they should be able to fucking throw a flag at that point and go, fucked it?
I don't think they're not meant to look at him, are they? I think they're told specifically don't look at the fucking...
Oh, are they?
Yeah, because I don't know why, but it's the same in basketball. They're told not to check the cameras and stuff, not to the initial replay things. But there's a booth in New York that specifically that's their job. So all of them should get like reprimanded because they're the people who, if the ref doesn't see it or the refs don't see it, they will get on the blower and be like, that was pass interference. That was
like majorly.
Because it wasn't even remotely 50-50. He ran into him, didn't look where the ball was, the ball hit him on the back.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, like, I'm not even kidding you. Think we had one against the Cowboys this week where Micah Parsons just ran straight through Kenny Golladay in the end zone. Didn't look for the ball hit him on the arm. Nothing. Didn't get anything. Teams don't get the calls.
No, it's not right. It's definitely not right. So,
but you're right. It does. It has a massive effect on which teams go into the playoffs, where people get drafted.
Yeah,
it has an impact on all of that stuff.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. So they need to find a way to sort it out because it's easily doable. You know, with VAR and everything that we've got now, there should be an opportunity for that. And in this game, I'm talking about the situation as well. If you don't call something that's even as blatant as that, but it's on 1st down, the team have got 2 other chances to try and make up for that fact or whatever. On 4th down with the game on the line, those things need to be reviewable.
If there was a sniff that it was pass interference, the ref should have the power to just be like, right, I'm going to stop the game and I'm going to have a quick look at that.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? And review it because
they do it in rugby.
Like you say, yeah, it does costs teams and stuff. And I think it's just, rather than being focused on if somebody puts 2 fingers up to give the peace sign as he's running into the end zone,
fucking bullshit, isn't it?
He gets an unsportsmanlike penalty for that, or kicking a ball in frustration when somebody's clearly just fucking done something. They should be able to just, do you know what I mean? They should be focusing on the things that are actually ruining the game, because the taunting thing, everybody loves it.
Yeah.
And again, that only goes against shit teams or players that aren't particularly liked or something. Because Kelsey we kept getting first downs. His fucking arm was straight out in somebody's face. Didn't get one flag.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it's not good, and so I'm not happy because the Seahawks, with that loss, fall to 5-9. It means that the Seahawks are going to be having their first losing record of a season for the last 9 years, and that does not make me happy. And that implication that it has on our team down the line is unknown at this point. Does Russell Wilson want to stay? Do we want to be starting fresh? Do the coaches need to be gone? You know, it's slightly different if your records may be different, or if you make the playoffs, and all those things can change off just one call of a crusty old fart. So not happy about that, and that's why Sean Hercules and his fucking crew, again, absolutely people's elbowed.
Yeah, gone.
And that's slap or sign. So that's the end of our slap or sign segment, and we now move on to our game recaps in On the Clock. So Dave, so many games to talk through this week, so there's a lot to get to. Reason being is that no teams are on a bye. So we'll start with a game that was played on Thursday night, which was an absolute stunner of a game, and that was the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the LA Chargers. Now, the Chiefs went into this one as the favourites. Chargers came in as a contester in the AFC, and they are a contester. Chiefs managed to just edge this one out in overtime, and they won 34 to the Chargers 28. They went into overtime at 28 each, and the Chiefs won with a walk-off touchdown, or should I say a long run-off touchdown from Travis Kelce. This game had everything. Mahomes had 410 yards through the air and 3 touchdowns. Justin Herbert threw for 236 and 2 touchdowns. Travis Kelce went off for 190 yards. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams both had big days. It was basically amazing, apart from the run games. Run games didn't get going at all, but passing-wise, what a spectacle.
Yeah, I think if you look at it, you can tell where the game was won, can't you? When you allow the 2 best receivers on the Chiefs, to have what, nearly 340 yards? 340 yards between them, between
Travis Kelce
two
had
people.
190 and Tyreek Hill had 148. That's crazy.
Yeah. That's where you know, innit? If you're allowing them to get them that kind of service going, then you're going to get absolutely spanked. I think they're lucky the score was where it was. If the Chiefs' defense had probably played a little bit better, they've just got that quick strike thing, and that's what they've got. And I think if you take that away from them, you've got to do what every other team does: play 2 deep safeties. You don't play that, and look what happens. You get 191 yards put on you by one player and 148 from the other. And they already had, so they had 340 yards. Is that right? Nearly 350 yards of 22 receptions.
Mm-hmm. That's mega. I mean, Keenan Allen, who is the best receiver at the Chargers, and Mike Williams, who's the second best receiver at the Chargers, they both had combined less yards than Tyreek Hill did on his own. And then you stick Travis Kelce on, who had 191 more than that. That's crazy. Crazy numbers. Rushing wise, Chiefs only rushed for 86 yards. The Chargers managed to get about 190 or so on the ground, but it was a pretty clean game from both teams, really. Mahomes had 1 interception, which was unlucky. Herbert had an interception, which was not a great pass either. But the Chiefs win it, and it's a big game to win. It's divisional. It's within the conference of AFC. It just pushes the Chiefs, after losing to the Chargers early in the season, just pushes them that further next step up, and they win a close game. You know what I mean? Like 28-28 in overtime. That's when you want to start seeing your team become a clutch team. And and the Chiefs go to 10-4. The Chargers 4-8-6, but still not a bad record in the AFC for the Chargers.
No, not at all. And I think it gives them every opportunity to make the playoffs, which is good.
Definitely.
Good for them.
Definitely.
I'd like to see Herbert there. I'd like to see a rematch of that in the playoffs.
It would be a good playoff game for sure. We stay in the AFC and we move to the New England Patriots taking on the Indianapolis Colts. So this one was, I think, before the game, was on paper one of the best games of the week, and you wouldn't necessarily say it. Carson Wentz and Mac Jones at quarterback, but both of these teams have been really consistent in the last, say, 6 weeks, and it proved to be something along those lines-ish. The Patriots were shut out for 3 quarters and scored 17 points in the fourth. The Colts managed to consistently drop points, 14, 3, 3, and 7 to the win, and that's 27-17 against the Patriots.
Came very close to slapping Bill Belichick, to be honest with you.
Did you?
Yeah. When you play, like, surely when you play teams, I am not Bill Belichick. I have 6 Super Bowls, although I've probably got a fair few on Madden. You cannot allow a team that has one significant strength to destroy you the way they destroyed him.
No.
Jonathan Taylor had 170 yards again on the ground. When you're playing a quarterback like Carson Wentz, who throws 5 passes for 57 yards, and he got an interception, he had a touchdown and interception, why are you not just putting load in the box so he physically cannot? You don't need a spy on Carson Wentz. You need a spy on Jonathan Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
Get somebody on him that's watching him, and just, like, I'm not saying you can't stop him, because obviously he's very good and their offensive line is disgusting. But you need to limit him running. When he has big chunk runs, it just absolutely melts your team away. And I think that they failed to do the one thing that, to beat the Colts, you have to stop Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
Like, to beat the Titans. The difference is the Titans have got 2 very good wide receivers and a quarterback that's capable of firstly running for a first down, and he can make the throws if he needs to. The Colts don't have that. Carson Wentz is a shadow of his former self, and he was never that good anyway. And yet you still allow Jonathan Taylor to get 170 yards.
Yeah. I mean, that's Bill Belichick's thing, is that he's renowned for taking a team's best weapon away. Bill Belichick will never be beaten by the team's number 1 weapon. That's what everyone always says. Well, in this game, he was beaten with a shitty stick until the Patriots had nothing left. And even though they mounted a slight comeback, Jonathan Taylor just absolutely tombstoned it at the end with like a 60-yard run to the house, touchdown, game, set, and match. And the Colts defense is sneaky good. Sneaky good. I mean, Mac Jones is not the hardest quarterback to go against for sure. He's in his first year, but something about the Colts defense just feels, I'd be scared of it, basically.
Yeah, they've got some good players on defense. I mean, Mac Jones, you know what you're getting with him. He's not got the wide, he's not got a Tyreek Hill that's going to rip the top clean off your defense, so you've got to worry about that. And he's not got the arm of Patrick Mahomes or he's got a very average arm. Mm-hmm. So you know what you're getting with him. You're getting the dink and dunk, you're getting to maybe 20-yard, you're getting less than 20-yard throws per throw all the time. So you know what you're getting with him. You don't have to, you can probably play one safety and then just play your nickel and just see what happens. Because he ain't going to destroy you like that. He nearly had 300 yards, 2 interceptions though, 2 touchdowns. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But fair play to the Colts for getting the win, because the Patriots were steaming. And that, again, just keeps the AFC open. AFC is open. Colts go to 8-6. The Patriots fall to 9-5. It's anybody's game in the AFC. It's absolutely madness. We move into the NFC. We've spoken about this game quite a bit, so we can breeze through it. The New Orleans Saints took on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Buccaneers house as well, at Raymond James Stadium in Florida. The Saints go in there, and if you'd have told me at the start of the game that the Saints score 9 points and put up 61 rush yards and 212 receiving yards, I'd have said the Saints get destroyed. They win 9-0. All field goals, no touchdowns, snore fest for the neutral. There was nothing to really talk about apart from the fact that Brady got angry, swore at a few people, threw a Microsoft tablet onto the floor and it smashed to bits. And our hatred of Taysom Hill, the gadget quarterback for the New Orleans Saints, managed to get the job done with 154 yards passing, no touchdowns, no interceptions. He had 112 yards to Marquise Callaway for the 40-yard long pass, which means for the rest of the game, his other 12 attempts went for the best part of 60 yards, which is pathetic. But it was better than what Brady could muster on the day. 214 yards and interception. It's not good for the Bucs.
If you said to any quarterback, apart from Mike Glennon, all you've got to do is score 10 points and you're going to win this game, they'd all be like, yeah, all right.
Exactly.
Not on that day, though.
Nope. The Saints have the Bucs number in the regular season, as you said earlier, Dave. It's not an easy task to play the Saints.
I think that's knocked Tom Brady out of the number one spot for the MVP as well, that game.
It could have done, couldn't it? It could have done. Because
I reckon Rodgers is going to win back-to-back MVPs.
Aaron Rodgers. I mean, there's a massive argument for Rodgers. We'll probably get onto it when we talk about the game, but there is a massive argument for Rodgers, but there's also a huge argument, I think, for the guy that was in the previous On the Clock segment, which is Jonathan Taylor. I think he's doing absolute damage, and it is because of a strong offensive line, but all things have to play a part, don't they? And I think that Rodgers probably edges it because he's just class, but Jonathan Taylor is having such an impact as an individual player. It's a toss-up, but I think you're probably right, because being shut out as the GOAT, as Tom Brady, not scoring a point, and your team falling to 10-4 is it's not the leading horse in the race, is it?
No, I mean I'm so off the Jonathan Taylor thing, and I think if Derrick Henry was still playing the season, nobody would be even talking about him. But
yeah,
we are.
Cool.
Next.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if we can keep it up for the last few games of the season. We ironically move into the next game, which is all about Aaron Rodgers. So the Packers played the Ravens, NFC Packers taking on the AFC Ravens. This should have been a tough game, and I suppose it was in the scoreline. The Ravens unfortunately were without Lamar Jackson though, so they're playing with a backup sort of bootleg version of him as Tyler Huntley, but he did okay. The Packers went into this and they won 31 to the Ravens 30, and that is because the Ravens decided to go for a 2-point conversion at the end of the game to win it instead of kicking the ball and tying it to 31-31 and going into overtime. Hence the reason why me and Dave slapped the coach of the Ravens this week. But Aaron Rodgers, 268 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he is looking phenomenal. Mark Andrews had a great game in this one as well, as tight ends go. 10 receptions for 136 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's monster as well. So there's some big games in here from the star players. But Aaron Rodgers is he's hard to beat, and he just looks absolutely class. And partly you could say that Jonathan Taylor is only so good as a running back because of his offensive line. You can't say the same for Rodgers because he's good with anyone, but Devontae Adams really fucking helps.
Yeah, it does. You're right. I don't know what he's got a bit like. I think he's at something like 38-4 though, past like touchdowns to interceptions. He's having an absolute storm of a season again.
Yeah, his stats definitely lean towards him being the MVP just because of I think his passer rating is the best in the NFL. I think his touchdown to interception ratio is the best. He's a phenomenal quarterback. He's a douche, but he's phenomenal. So, and this game, beating the Ravens in a tight one, just goes to show you that he can, when the pressure's on, he still can do it. And they had to come back to win.
Yeah, agreed.
So Packers go to 11-3 in the NFC. They sit atop of the NFC, and the Ravens fall to 8-6. Anyone's game. Over to another AFC matchup. Big clincher for playoff berths, this one was. But it didn't turn out to be an overly enthralling game. And this was the Cincinnati Bengals took on the Denver Broncos. the Bengals won this one, 15 to the Broncos 10. Bengals rise to 8-6. That's another 8-6 team in the AFC, and the Broncos fall to an equal level, 7-7. Not loads to talk about in this one. Joe Burrow had a pretty clean and tidy game, I suppose. He had 157 yards. He didn't throw a pick, which is always nice to see from your quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater, unfortunately for him, was absolutely knocked spark out in this game. I think lights out before he'd even hit the floor, or when he hit the floor, it knocked his lights out. But he did not move and had to be carted off on a stretcher and then taken immediately to A&E to be checked out. Apparently he's okay, but he was absolutely KO'd. And the Broncos couldn't come back from that at that point. Drew Lock threw for a touchdown, but just wasn't enough. Stats were very close in this one, really, really close. Total yards, actually Broncos had more total yards. It's just the Bengals managed to get the points.
Yeah, I mean, Drew Lock came on, didn't he? I thought they were going to go absolutely tits up when Drew Lock came on, but he looked all right, to be fair to him. He's swinging it about, when he's not afraid, is he?
He's definitely not afraid to throw a ball, that's for sure, and he did all right in this one.
Yeah, which surprised me, but no, it wasn't great to watch.
Nah, not a phantasmic game. So we move on to an NFC clash of the Falcons taking on the San Francisco 49ers, and this one just felt written from the moment that it kicked off. I think, Dave, I said to you, I was like, it was quite even in the first quarter. I think they finished 3-3 and I was thinking, on paper, you obviously look at it and say, oh, okay, it's anybody's game. But it just felt like the inevitability of the Niners smashing the life out of the Falcons was just coming. Just felt like it was coming. Even though the scores were exactly the same, I was just like, I have never at one point looked at this game and thought, oh, the Niners are having trouble. They just seem to be running away with it. So, and that's exactly what happened. The 49ers beat the Falcons 31-13. Niners rise in the NFC to 8-6. The Falcons fall to 6-8. Niners just get it done, don't they? George Kittle had 93 yards. Some guy called Wilson, their previous running back, it's like any running back they throw into the scheme gets 100 yards. This guy had 21 attempts for 110 yards and a touchdown. They don't give a fuck, the Niners. They just run it at you with the fucking janitor, the kitchen cleaner. They don't give a shit. They just run it down your neck. And Jimmy G stands there looking all good looking and fucking cool and going, hey, yeah, this is my team. But actually, Jim, it's not your team. This team belongs to whoever the fuck is lined up behind your offensive line and gets absolutely pounded 22 times a game.
Yeah. Well, that's why they go through running backs like they're going through, I don't know, we've had hot dinners. They don't care, do they? But like,
don't give a
the
shit.
thing is, they've always just got like moths behind there. There's nobody of name that they have behind they just pick running backs. They're like, oh, how's he look? Yeah, he looks alright. He's got a bit of toe on him. We'll have him.
Yeah.
Pick Raheem Mostert up and he looks like Adrian Peterson in.
Yeah, but they batter the life out of them, don't they? They come out of the game like literally elbows and arms hanging off.
Yeah, that's why they're none of them around.
Yeah.
Mozart's out for the season with like a season-ending injury. They're back to the second running back now because the third one, Mitchell's constantly broken. Just rotate through. They don't care, do they?
No, they don't give a shit. And the Falcons got destroyed in this.
Yeah.
They're shocking the Falcons.
Matty Tepid Watter. He's I think he's aging like we all want Brady to age.
Yeah. He's aging like me.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
He's just a bag of like a tall, skinny, kicked bag of sick.
Yeah.
Except I'm not skinny.
But you do look like a bag of sick.
We'll move on because that's that game. There's nothing else to talk about it. Into another absolute wet, soggy Kit Kat of a game, which was the Tennessee Titans taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this one was not a spectacle for the eyes whatsoever. Steelers managed to squeak one over the Titans, 19-13. Anything of worth to say about this game, Dave? Because I really don't have too much.
Nothing. Steelers. I didn't want to talk about Steelers. The Steel. I don't know. Big Ben, was he all right? Was he back to Big Ben?
He had 148 yards and no touchdowns, so that's fucking terrible in my eyes.
Najee Harris had a big day of 18 yards.
12 attempts for 18 yards, man. That Najee Harris, I'm so glad that I slapped him the other week, and I'm so glad that people are like so hyped about him going to the Steelers. And I was like, okay, let's see what fucking happens. The guy is a big unit. I've never seen a man run for such like little or negative yards in my life. This guy averages like 2 yards a carry. It's fucking woeful.
Explain to me how Big Ben can have 3 carry attempts for no yards but one touchdown.
That is mental, isn't it? That is mental. So Big Ben did score a touchdown. They called it a rushing touchdown, but whilst we were watching this, we both said, Dave, this was not a rushing touchdown. This was a fat man falling over touchdown. He literally snapped the ball. It was a quarterback sneak, and he just fell over. His big fat fucking rotund body just fell into the end zone, and nobody could fucking stop it because he weighs more than fucking me and you put together. And he just,
Does that mean that he either got a yard for that, but then his other 2 attempts went for minus?
Yeah.
Well, went for 0.5 a yard in the wrong way, and that's equaled out. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Where did their points come from?
Well, just that, I think.
Joel Schubert had a pick.
Okay.
Schubert. He had a pick. I can't remember how they scored, but
I think it was a pick 6. I think Schubert had a pick 6, and then Big Ben had a fucking fat man fall, and that was it. And the Tennessee Titans got their touchdown from a Ryan Tannehill scramble.
Boswell, so they kicked 13 points.
Yeah.
And then the touchdown obviously was the other 6.
Terrible.
The fall down was the 6. I mean, if you're a Steelers fan, feel free to give us some shit in
please do.
Because I've yet to find a Steelers fan, so.
Yeah, and they can't say fuck all when they've got Big Ben because he is absolutely shit. But, I mean, the Steelers won and they keep themselves in it, which annoys me because, and I knew they would. I didn't think the Titans would win this game. I thought, do you know what? Steelers are going to keep themselves in the playoff mix just because they're the Steelers.
But how bad does that make the Giants? The Steelers look awful. What do the Giants must look like to the unbiased eye? The Giants must look like a huge load of 11 poo emojis just on the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, I'd still rather have the Giants team right now than the Steelers. I don't know how they're doing it. I think the Steelers are fortunate to be in, the AFC, which is everything's to play for in the AFC. And it's not the same in the NFC. NFC is full of big fucking big tonk bastards that will just bury you if you're shit. Whereas the Steelers can just creep their way through some of these crap games. But the Titans rise to fall to 9-5, which is still a really good record for what I think is an average team right now. And the Steelers rise to 7-6-1 draw. Let's keep flowing. And oh wow, this is a terrible game. Jets, Dolphins. It wasn't as terrible on paper as we thought it might be. There were some points in this game, but of these teams, you've got it was a 3-10 team and a 7-6 team. And the Dolphins managed to go into the Jets and win this one, even though the Jets came out hot and scored 17 points in the first 2 quarters. And then the Dolphins just kept the gas on. Tua had 196 yards, 2 touchdowns. Zach Wilson 170, and Duke Johnson, who'd just been activated off a practice squad, had 22 rush attempts for 107 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, they signed him, didn't they? They signed him from the practice squad to a proper contract. Do you know his first name's Randy?
Whose first name's Randy?
Duke Johnson. Duke is like a nickname, one would imagine. And
his real name's Randy Johnson.
Randy Johnson Jr.
I bet he's a right Randy Johnson.
Bless him.
Is that your nickname on a Saturday night, Dave?
What, Randy?
Randy Johnson.
Oh, horny Dave. Better than Pervy Dom.
Yeah, it's true. So the Jets lose again. They drop to 3-11, and the Dolphins rise to 7-7, still in the playoff mix somehow in the AFC because the AFC is so open. An even worse game on paper next, again from the AFC. God, the AFC's got some bad teams. The Houston Texans take on the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Oh my God.
What a shitter of a game. This was on the 6 o'clock window, and I remember thinking, what a fucking crap game.
The 6 o'clock games were absolute garbage, and the Giants were also on at 6, so I'm not discriminating. I mean, if you're a Cowboys fan, you probably thought it was a great game, but I remember thinking this was the worst weekend of football for like early games, and then the late games got a little bit better. Yeah, no, it was a terrible one, and the Texans were 2-10, and the Jaguars were 2-11. No, they were both 2-11. The Jags fucking lost. The Jags cannot beat anything right now. The Jags lost. They fall to 2 wins and 12 losses. That takes them into the front run for the second year running of the first pick in the first round. Basically means that for 2 years running, they've been the worst team in football, and that's even with a brand new top tier quarterback, apparently. The Texans managed to win somehow. Davis Mills, he must be like the son or cousin of fucking Mike Glennon, because their necks are both equally as long. But he managed to take the Texans to a win with 209 yards and 2 touchdowns. And here we are, yet again, Trevor Lawrence with 200 yards and no touchdowns. The man can't score touchdowns. He is fucking crap. Or maybe he's just part of a crap team. But at the moment, he's looking like every week, and I say this every week now because it is every week, I see his stat line and it's between 150 and 200 yards, no touchdowns. It's fucking terrible. I think he needs some receivers. Who's on his team? The Jags have got to have the worst team.
They must do, I guess. But I mean, the Texans team is crud, and they still win.
Yeah, who have they?
Texans have got no one. Brandon Cooks, I suppose, is good at the Texans.
Who have the Jags got at wide receiver? Oh, they've got O'Shaughnessy.
He's a tight end.
Treadwell, Chenault. No, their team's crap. If you give him a couple of receivers, he might be alright.
Yeah, well, that's where they need to go in the draft if that's what's happening. So, anyway, Texans win, Jags lose. On to the next one. Dave, you just mentioned it. Another 6 o'clock window game, which was full of teams. The Cowboys took on the New York Giants. This was not a close affair. Cowboys win 21 to the Giants 6. I think keeping Cowboys to 21 was probably more respectable, actually. You didn't get absolutely blown out, at least.
No, that was shit.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked like he was all right on this, and to be honest, I didn't really want to talk about this game, but...
Go on. It's in your hands.
I can't speak about the Giants because they are fucking woeful. At least we had over 100 rush yards for once. Devontae Booker had 74 yards off 8 carries, which is pretty impressive. Average 9.2 yards a carry. Barkley 50 yards. And then you just look at Golladay 50 yards, Evan Ingram 33, Barkley 24, Slayton 23. It's just not, and I don't know, we're just shit. We're just not good. We've got no good quarterback at the minute. The offensive line sucks ass. It's just tough being a Giants fan. If you're a Cowboys fan, it weren't too bad. Dak had 200 yards off 28 attempts. That's a great, probably like fucking 4 yards an attempt. They're the same sort of rushing yards as us. We just turned the ball over too much. Glennon gave him 3 extra possessions, and Barkley lost a fumble. So they got 4 extra possessions, and they didn't look for 1 second like we were going to trouble them.
No.
And that's the Giants' way at the minute. And all I can hope is that we play our last 3 games. We play the Eagles this week. We play the Bears next week. And then the week after, we play Washington. And they are 3 actually winnable games.
They are.
But the problem is, I would rather us not win them because we're playing for nothing other than pride. The only one I would like to win is the Bears one because we have their pick. So by beating them, we'll keep their pick low, and then we lose the other 2 games and we get a better pick.
Fair enough. Strategic.
But that's the way you look at it now. That's my season.
Yeah, sure.
My season starts again at the draft.
Yeah. No, I totally.
So tough to be a Giants fan.
Yeah, you aren't actually playing for anything, and it's not even like you've got the players that you want to test out. Like, some people want to finish the season strong to see what they've got, but you've got Mike Glennon and fucking Jake Fromm. No point. So, not saying you tank, because I don't like the idea of any teams tanking, but you are right. If you do lose, it's not the worst thing in the world.
No.
Panthers took on the Bills. This one was at the Bills' house in Buffalo, and the Carolina Panthers lost to the Bills 31-14. Bills rise in the AFC to 8-6. Panthers fall in the NFC to 5-9. Again, not loads to say about this game. Josh Allen was solid, 210 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns. It's a good day for him. Cam Newton had 156 yards through the air and a touchdown, and led the team in rushing as well with 15 attempts and 71 yards and a touchdown. So Cam did pretty much everything he could do to keep it competitive, but unfortunately, he's just not good enough. I don't think he's spent too long on the couch, or he's just too far gone, and the Bills just dismantled the Panthers the way in which we thought would happen going into it.
Yeah, the Panthers team's cacking it. DJ Moore needs to get out of there. He's too good of a receiver to be wasting away. He could be a good number 2 somewhere. He's not a number 1 receiver. He could be a great number 2 somewhere.
Very good. I feel like DJ Moore's a little bit like Tyler Lockett.
He's
a bit bigger, but
same sort of player. Yeah, and Cam. I mean, you can't ask much more for Cam. He's clearly not a great thrower of the ball, but 150 yards and then 71 rush yards. Mm-hmm. It's basically the same thing you get out of Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
He's just a bigger, stronger slower version of fucking Lamar Jackson. You get the same sort of input from him, about 50% completion rating. Not great. But Lamar Jackson's got a better team.
Definitely. Much better. Onto an NFC clash, which was the surprise of the week. And this was the Arizona Cardinals taking on the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions, who had won 1 game, lost 11, and drawn 1, went into the Cardinals' house, where the Cardinals were 10-3. One of the powerhouses in the NFC, looking to get to the playoffs, definitely looking to try and get to the Super Bowl. And Jared Goff and the lowly Lions demolished the Cardinals, 30 points to the Cardinals 12. They shut the Cardinals out in the first half, no points scored, and then the Cardinals scored 6 in the third, 6 in the fourth. To the Lions, 3, 14, 7, and 6, 30-12. Jared Goff beats Kyler Murray. What an upset.
Yeah, Jared Goff could be the MVP. Could be the comeback player of the year, because he's not been playing he's not turned up for the first in 14 weeks.
True.
Yeah, I don't know. They had an absolute stinker, didn't they?
They did. It's just the Lions defense suffocated the Cardinals in every which way. Managed to get to Kyler Murray a few times. Jared Goff was just mad efficient. 216 yards, which is not a lot of yards for a quarterback, but 3 touchdowns. Just meant that everything that he was doing was just like precise, just exactly what it needed to be. No more, no less. He was totally clean, didn't throw a pick, whereas Kyler Murray threw an interception. They turned him over, they sacked him, and that Equanimeous St. Brown for the Lions is just starting to like spark a little bit as the season goes out, which is what they need, because they need receivers, and they just couldn't put anything together as the Cardinals, and that's a big problem, I think, going into the playoffs. You know, when you start to get teams that are like the Chiefs that are trending upwards towards the playoffs, and then teams like the Cardinals that were dynamite in the first few weeks, and now they're really starting to peter off, losing, only just scraping wins in some tough games. It's not great.
Amon-Ra, that one's Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Where's
What did
Equanimeous?
I say? Equanimeous.
Yeah, where's he? Yeah, what teams does he play for then?
Packers.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Is there another one?
No, it's just them. Amon-Ra and Equanimeous. What a pair.
But their mum and dad were high as fuck when they named them.
I bet they're rich as fuck now. But yeah, I mean, anything to say on that one, Dave, other than the fact that the Lions performed very, very efficiently?
Yeah, the Lions cost me money in a bet.
Ouchies. Soz Dave.
No, I mean, the Lions should have about another 4 more wins than what they've got. They've got unlucky, haven't they, in some cases.
Yeah, they've had tight games for sure.
And I don't think Jared Goff is a starting quarterback in the NFL, but he's good enough for them while they build a team that's right for the next quarterback that comes through.
That makes sense.
So,
That's a good way to look at it.
If I were them, I'd stick with him and then just try and build the team. Take some of these pass rushers that are coming out of the draft. Leave the good offensive linemen for the Giants.
Definitely needed. Okay, so we move into an NFC North clash, which was the Minnesota Vikings taking on the Chicago Bears, the Bears, and the Vikings came away with a much-needed win if they were to stay alive with any hope in the NFC for playoffs. The Vikings win and rise to 7-7, breaking even in the NFC. The Bears fall to 4-10, much to Dave's happiness because they've got the Giants have got the Bears first-round pick. So the worse they do, the better the Giants get. The Vikings win 17 to the Bears 9. There was not a lot to get excited about in this game whatsoever. When I'm looking at the box score, it doesn't look like the Vikings should have even won. Kirk Cousins threw for 87 yards and 2 touchdowns. So again, some very low yardage, with an efficiency in touchdowns. Justin Fields had 285 throwing yards, which is mental. Probably had a career day at the season so far, but still losers. Kirk Cousins threw 2 touchdowns and a pick, and Justin Fields threw 1 touchdown, no picks. Can't see where this game was really won in the trenches by the looks of things.
Yeah, no,
defense.
Well, yes. So the Bears had 3 lost fumbles.
Oh dear.
So that's probably where the tide turned with it.
That'll do it.
The Vikings punted 7 times.
Did they?
Yeah.
So the Bears just shut them down on defense. I didn't really catch this one.
No, neither did I. But from what it looks like, the 2 extra possessions is where it was won. But yeah, like you say, the Vikings. The more games the Bears lose, the better it is for me. So.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is a strange week because you listen to this. This is the Vikings stat line: pass yards 61, rush yards 132, total yards 193 versus 255 passing yards, 115 rushing yards, and a total of 370. So 193 versus 370. Kirk Cousins with 87 yards and 12 completions versus Justin Fields 26 and 285.
Yeah.
It's mad.
If you get short fields and they capitalise and score touchdowns,
I guess if that's where the fumbles came, it's never quite as it seems, is it? So anyway, Vikings keep themselves alive in the playoff hunt. Talking about keeping yourselves alive in the playoff hunt, we move to another fucking AFC just shit show of teams that are scrambling to stay alive. The Vegas Raiders took on the Cleveland Browns, the Cleveland Stinky Browns, and the Vegas Sooty Raiders. And they're both 7-7. That's where they're at now. They're both absolutely equal at 7-7. 7 wins, 7 losses. I don't know what to say about a record like that. I'm obviously saying I'd rather the Seahawks be fucking 7-7. But in a way, I almost wouldn't, because it just feels like such a fucking weak performance. The Raiders won 16-14. There was nothing in this game. Derek Carr, 230 yards and a touchdown. Nick Mullins, the 3rd string Browns quarterback, 147 and a touchdown. None of the running backs did a lot. Nick Chubb, 90 yards. Josh Jacobs has had a fucking terrible season. That guy needs to either go on a diet or go somewhere else. What a toss game.
Yeah, I think the Browns are riddled with COVID, aren't they? So a lot of their I think if all the players of the Browns are there, they probably win.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I think Nick Mullins has got actually a really good record as a quarterback when he starts games. Obviously, he's backed up at like the Niners, isn't he? So he's always played with a good team.
Yeah.
I think this came right down to the wire. This game. I can't really remember how it ended, but it did come right down to the wire.
I mean, the score
it was a stinky game. I think I was paying a little bit of attention because of Nick Chubb in my fantasy team, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean they did win with a field goal. The Raiders, the last score of the game with 3 seconds to go was a field goal.
Yeah, that Carlson's good. The Raiders kicker, he's good. He is.
Yeah, he is good. I had him in fantasy for a little bit, but I just begrudge having any Raiders players in my fantasy really.
Yeah, 3 of 3.
But yeah, so the Raiders win this in the last few seconds of the game with a field goal to go 16-14 and take the win away from the Browns. Both of them still alive in the playoff hunt in the AFC because it's so open, but arguably they've both played so poorly at times that they shouldn't be. 2 more games. One is the Washington football team, aka Washington Wind Sox, taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. Dave, I did not see this game because it was played because of COVID. A lot of these games were postponed, just so everyone is aware. This was one of those that was postponed, as well as the Raiders Browns and the Seahawks Rams. So this one was played at a weird time, and I didn't have a chance to watch it the next day because of work. So talk us through this one, Dave. But the Washington football team got beat by the Eagles.
Yeah, the Wind Sox got beat. They've been riddled as well, I think, by COVID, the Wind Sox. So they've just got ran all over. They're actually winning it. They were winning 10-0 after the first quarter, and then they just got stomped on. The Eagles are really good at running the football.
Yeah.
Which is surprising because you'd think the one thing that you would try and stop with the Eagles is the run game because of Jalen Hurts. But for some reason, Miles Sanders has just turned into, I don't know, vintage Ezekiel Elliott, and he can just run, averaging 7 yards. He had 131 yards.
Yeah, I don't know where he's...
He's a dwarf, isn't he? He's a dwarf, so I don't think anybody sees him. He just runs through people's legs.
Yeah.
But yeah, Goddard as well was turned into Zach Ertz for them. I don't know. That's just the Eagles. We play them this week, and again, I think they're such a beatable team. We shut Jalen Hurts fully down last time, but we'll see.
Yeah,
I watched the first bit. They got the Washington got a very lucky interception off the heel of an Eagle. I think Dallas Goedert went to catch the ball. He's missed it, or it's hit him in the back or something, and then it's hit his heel, bounced up into Landon Collins' arms, and he just ran it in.
Oh, right. Okay.
And the last time that happened...
the ball never touched the floor?
No. It literally flicked off his heel, but Goddard's ran on thinking, fucking incomplete pass, that's a bit of a shitter. Landon Collins has caught the ball, ran in, but it was like an incomplete pass. And then Landon Collins was like, no, throw the flag.
Right.
He's like, I'm telling you, it hit his heel, and then I caught it.
Wow.
So they reviewed it and then brought it back as an interception. But the funny thing is, the last time that happened, it was the Cowboys versus the Giants. It came off a Cowboys player's heel. The Giants player ran it in. Oh. So it's strange that that's that
same division.
Yeah. But no, that was about the most interesting thing that happened in that game. I can't stand Jalen Hurts. He looked pretty efficient here, to be honest with
300 yards. Ouchies.
Yeah. But we'll see this week.
Yeah, we will. I still don't like him at all, but
no,
he's seemingly getting the job done. Eagles 7-7, Washington Wind Sox 6-8. On to the last game of the week, which we've already kind of covered anyway, so I'm not going to go into it, but it is my beloved Seahawks taking on the LA Rams. So we were playing at SoFi Stadium, the new home to the LA teams in Los Angeles. Seahawks go in, and this is a very low scoring, sort of scrappy first half. It finished 3-3 at the half. Both teams scored 7 points in the third quarter. We had a rushing touchdown through a pretty powerful drive and run from DJ Dallas, one of our previous rookies that we signed in the draft, and Sony Michel had a decent day on the ground, but Matt Stafford is just laser with his passes. We were saying, weren't we, Dave, watching this one, that the difference between Jared Goff and Matt Stafford in that Rams offense is just so evident. Like, he can make passes that Goff could only wish he could make.
Yeah, Goff goes to sleep thinking about the passes that Matt Stafford can make.
Definitely does.
Yeah, well, they threw a questionable interception. I don't know.
He does that though, but I think that's because he must just see something that he likes and then all of a sudden regret it, but
yeah.
He does that a bit.
What a receiver Cooper Kupp is. Cooper Kupp's going to break the single season receiving yard record this year. That's
mad. And it's going quietly as well, isn't it? There's not a massive rave about him. I know a lot of people are saying that he's in the conversation, but there's no massive rave about him. And if he does that, he's beat a lot of very elite receivers to that record.
Mm. I mean, I know he's got an extra game to do it in, and I feel like if he can do it in 16, it will give him so much more credibility.
Yeah.
Is it Megatron? Is it? No, who's got the record?
Yeah, Calvin Johnson, I think.
Is it Megatron?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is ironic because it was probably Matt Stafford who was throwing him the ball then.
That's very true, mate. Actually, that is such a good stat. that says something about Matt Stafford.
Yeah.
No, that's a really good point. But so Matt Stafford, would have been the man that was throwing the ball to Megatron when he broke that single season receiving yard, and now it's Cooper Kupp. Very different types of receivers and builds, but nevertheless, I mean, Matt Stafford, like I was saying, he just fires lasers, and there was nothing that our team could do about it. We actually played okay on defense, holding the Rams to 20 points. Bobby Wagner was absolutely everywhere in like perfect coverage, but Matt Stafford is just that next level of quarterback that can put the ball exactly where it needs to be for only his receivers to get it. So anyway, the Rams beat us 20 to Seahawks 10 points. As I mentioned earlier, there were some very questionable calls in the game from the referees that didn't allow the Seahawks chance to come back and make a game of it. We were marching down the pitch in the fourth quarter to try and tie the game up at 17-7, but because of the poor calls, it meant that the Rams could go down and get a field goal to make it a 2-point game, which was just not achievable with only 20 seconds, less than 2 minutes left on the clock. So nobody on the Seahawks offense had a particularly good game, unfortunately. Tyler Lockett was out with COVID. Our second string running back was out with COVID, so we were definitely down. Our offensive line is shocking, and it's only highlighted even more when you've got Aaron Donald and Von Miller rushing at you. So we fall to 5-9, first losing season of Russell Wilson's career, and he could be on the move at the end of the season. And the Rams rise to 10-4. So 10-4 Rams. They look like the powerhouse, or one of the few powerhouses in the NFC, and they really look like it on this night. So we'll see what happens for the remainder of the season. And that is the end of On the Clock. So Dave, 2 days, Christmas.
Ho,
Santa
ho,
Claus
ho.
is coming to town. He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake.
Very bestie.
Dutty bugger. And I can't wait, to be honest. You looking forward to Christmas?
No.
No? You Scrooge.
Santa doesn't exist, and I think Christmas is for children. And if you are giving people presents other than your significant other, or somebody who your significant other is potentially making you buy presents for, then you are a retard.
Well, I mean, that's fair enough.
Nobody buy me stuff. That's my thing. I'm
taking your replica New York Giants jersey back to the shop then, Dave, shall I?
Get it sent back.
Signed Eli Manning jersey.
Get it sent back.
You want that. I know you want it. But I mean, we're a few days out from Christmas, and most importantly is the reason why I'm looking forward to it is because no work for a couple of days. There is football on Christmas Day. What more can you ask for than finishing a massive plate of food, drinking a load of beer and gin and rum, and then sitting down and watching football all night? Because that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. I'm looking forward to it anyway. And we're going to go into this segment that is a Christmas special segment, and it's in relation to the Pro Bowl. Players have just been voted in, been released on the NFL Network, and also if you head to our Instagram page, Uh, in the End Zone UK, you'll also see a list of the Pro Bowl players. But me and Dave are going to talk about the players that we believed have been left off that list, that have been moved in because of Santa's nice list and actually should be on the naughty list. And we're going to go into Santa's Snow Bowl Snubs. That's not very easy to say either. Santa's Snow Bowl Snubs. So Dave, as part of this Pro Bowl, you're taking the AFC. No, you're not. You're taking the NFC.
Yeah.
Please, can you give me who you believe to be the first snub? So who would you put in and who will you take out?
I think this is very easy, this first one anyway.
Okay.
I am taking Kyler Murray out and I'm putting Matt Stafford in.
Ooh.
And I don't think this is even, I don't think this could be the gap between them is humongous. It's not remotely close.
Fair play.
So Matt Stafford has thrown, so I'm just going to do a versus, yeah?
Okay.
So Matt Stafford versus Kyler Murray. Matt Stafford's thrown 4,142 yards. Kyler Murray's thrown 3,039. So over 1,000 more pass yards. Yeah?
Yeah.
Matt Stafford has thrown 35 touchdowns to Kyler Murray's 20. They've both thrown 10 interceptions. Matt Stafford's passer rating for the season, not passer rating, or like QBR, is 108.2 versus Kyler Murray's 102. Both have got a 10-4 record, but the Rams are on a 3-game winning streak, whereas the Cardinals are on a 2-game losing streak. Therefore, Matt Stafford deserves to be going to the Pro Bowl instead of Kyler Murray.
Do you know what? I can't argue with that, and I'm surprised that is the case given the chasm in the statistics, because that 1,000 yards, more touchdowns, the same picks, better win record. Matt Stafford has been snubbed.
Yeah, and I don't care if somebody's going to come and say, yeah, but Kyler Murray runs for some touchdowns. I don't care. That's what running backs are for.
Yeah.
I'm a traditional guy. Quarterback should stand in the pocket like real men and throw the ball downfield. I don't want to see this running around behind the backfield. I'm not interested in that. Don't respect it.
No, it's a really good point. Really good point, Dave. And I think Santa needs to get on his list with his little eraser, as they say in America, or his rubber, as they say in the UK. Throw me a rubber and rub out Kyler Murray and pencil in, or not even pencil, permanent ink in Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford should have gone to the Pro Bowl, 100%.
So,
okay, do you want to hear mine? My first one.
From the AFC.
From the AFC. From the AFC, mine's also a quarterback swap, so we're on the same page here. This is probably more questionable because the stat lines aren't quite the same, but I just think that the intangibles are probably worth taking into account. So I am going to bring in Joe Burrow.
Okay.
I'm going to bring in Joe Burrow, and this was tight because there was 2 people that I could have got rid of, I think, in place for him. But I am going to get rid of Justin Herbert.
Okay.
It was going to be Lamar, but I feel like Lamar Jackson, he's just a different type of player. You can't really account for it. Whereas Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow are quite similar. So basically, Justin Herbert out, Joe Burrow in. There's only a few reasons why, and these guys are so close to each other in terms of statistics and win-loss. So both teams and both quarterbacks have won the same games, same amount of games. So they're both 8-6 in their respective divisions. And it comes down to a few things now. Justin Herbert has thrown for 4,058 yards. Joe Burrow has thrown for 3,640. So there you go. Justin Herbert, he wins that one. He wins that because he's thrown more yards. However, he's thrown a lot more passes. So he's had more pass attempts. And actually, average-wise, Joe Burrow's average pass is 8.4 yards, whereas Justin Herbert's is 7.5. But their passer rating, Justin Herbert is 99.1, and the passer rating for Joe Burrow is 100.7. So very close again, but Burrow edges him in those key sort of intangibles that go into a passer rating statistic. Joe Burrow is thrown for 26 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. Herbert's thrown for 32 and 12. So again, Herbert looks like he's the better quarterback, but I think it goes on the team and what Joe Burrow has currently got to play with versus what Herbert's got to play with. Now, you can argue that Joe Burrow has got Jamar Chase now, right? So he's got a wide receiver that's also made the Pro Bowl, but he's a rookie. He's in his first year. You can't really say that Jamar Chase is well established, that he's the type of receiver that, say, Keenan Allen at the Chargers is, because Keenan Allen's been in the league for donkey's years, been one of the highest respected receivers in the last 10 years. He's in the Pro Bowl again this year, and I think Burrow has done better with what he's got in front of him versus what Herbert's got in front of him. I feel Herbert's got Jared Cook at tight end. He's got Mike Williams. He's got Austin Eckler, who can receive out the backfield, who's dynamite in the running back. And I just respect what Burrow's doing. I feel like Burrow has it all in between the eyes. His brain is more connected than Herbert's is, and Herbert is relying on just total athleticism on its own. And so, yeah, this is a more personal thing for me as opposed to the obvious choice that was yours. I would just put Burrow in there instead of Herbert.
No, I agree. I think if I had to pick one of them, if the Giants could have the pick of them two, can have one of them, I'd take Joe Burrow every day.
Yeah.
I think he's got far more intangibles than Herbert, who I think you're right. I think he does. Yeah, granted, he's a gunslinger, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's not a field general.
No.
He's more about that downfield. He's a flashy quarterback, isn't he? I don't necessarily think you can win with that. Whereas I think Joe Burrow will eventually win.
Yeah.
I think he's more of a winner. So
yeah.
I agree with you.
Okay, that's good to know. Next one, AFC. I keep getting it wrong. Next one, NFC.
This may be controversial to some people.
Okay.
I am removing Micah Parsons as a middle linebacker in the Pro Bowl, NFC Pro Bowl list. And I am replacing him with a man whose name I'm about to butcher. But it's fine. I'm replacing him with Foye Oluokun, who is...
I think you got it right.
I think so, yeah. I got the last bit right. Anyway, Oluokun, he's a linebacker for the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
And he is Micah Parsons to me is not a middle linebacker. A middle linebacker is somebody who can make the tackles, makes a lot of tackles, not necessarily a pass rush. Well, he's definitely not a pass rush because he's a middle linebacker. I want somebody who's going from side to side. They're defending the pass. They're getting the odd sack maybe on a middle linebacker blitz. They're reaching up, getting interceptions, pass defenses. But most of all, it's somebody who's making tackles. It's somebody who's more employable than just an edge rusher who's 99% of the time he's just rushing the quarterback. And Oluokun pisses all over Micah Parsons in this category. Oluokun is second in the league in tackles behind Bobby Wagner with 153 tackles.
That's mad.
Parsons has got 76.
Yeah.
Oluokun has a pass interception. Parsons does not have one. Parsons does have 10 more sacks. But this is what I'm saying to you. I don't want a middle linebacker. How many sacks does Bobby Wagner have a season?
2.
Yeah. Blake Martinez, 1 or 2. These people who consistently put up all the tackles are the people I want in the middle of my line. Yeah. And I think Oluokun is a better middle linebacker than what Parsons is.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm going to say to you.
Fair play. I mean, Parsons is always going to be spoken about because the hype is on him because he's a Cowboy. And he's looked pretty electric this year as well. But to take him to the Pro Bowl as a middle linebacker, or as an edge rusher, or as an outside linebacker, I think it's always going to be difficult to bracket because he does a little bit of everything. But then I don't know whether that's a good thing for a player or not. I really don't. But when you're looking at stat for stat, that Aluaquan, he's been a monster in fantasy all year. He's on a shit team, so he's having to put the effort in. And so I think. I don't know whether I would remove Parsons entirely from the Pro Bowl because I think that he's probably done enough to get there. I just don't know where he would fit, and so I probably agree with the middle linebacker removal because he's been more impactful as a rusher than he has as a tackler.
I'd say he's only made a difference as a rusher.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, my next one is a pass rusher as well. It's not a linebacker though. We're talking on the edge. All right. And this one is, I think, blatantly obvious. So I was surprised to see this in the Pro Bowl. Who I'm bringing in is Sam Hubbard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bengals.
So right end or left end, depending on where they line him up, for the Cincinnati Bengals. So these are two Bengals going into the playoffs for me. Into the Pro Bowl for me. One's Joe Burrow, one is Sam Hubbard. But Sam Hubbard has had 7.5 sacks, 55 tackles. I'm not sure how many pressures, but he's created a lot of pressure. And the reason why is because him and Trey Hendrickson, who's also made the Pro Bowl, are an amazing pair on the outside. They managed to stop the run really well in Cincinnati on the outside or edge runs, and they get to the quarterback a hell of a lot, something that they've not been able to do for a long time. And I think that Hubbard has been snubbed because Hendrickson has made the Pro Bowl, so they thought, well, that's a Bengal in. Or maybe the Bengals fans are only voting for Hendrickson because he has been a better player. But I'm replacing Max Crosby. Crosby for the for the Vegas Raiders. Listen to this. Sam Hubbard has got 7.5 sacks and 55 tackles. Max Crosby has made the playoffs with 5 sacks and 36 tackles. There is a list of 25 people that have got more sacks than Max Crosby, but he still made the Pro Bowl.
Yeah,
I can't understand that.
No, one thing I'll say is, whenever you watch the Raiders play, you see him everywhere.
Right.
But it's kind of because he's like a big white Dolph. He looks like the fucking Russian out of Rocky IV, doesn't he? So he's
Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah, he's just everywhere. I don't know to say he's everywhere because clearly he's not, because his stats would say better. But he's kind of you always see him, and I think maybe that's what people take into account. And you're right. I think by the Bengals, when they're voting for a defensive player or whatever, they're putting one ahead of the other. Mm-hmm. Whereas the Raiders are only voting for one person, so I assume that's why he's got him. But no, that's what I mean. Like, to caveat all of this, I hate the Pro Bowl. I hate the NBA All-Star Game because it's all fan votes. It doesn't mean... So when somebody tells me that, Tom Brady's a bad example because Tom Brady's the GOAT, but if, for example, somebody's been to the Pro Bowl 10 times, but they've only got one All-Pro, that basically means for one season in a career lasting 15 years, they've been the best player at that position. Once.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That Pro Bowl don't mean anything to me. It doesn't mean anything to Tom Brady. Don't mean anything to Aaron Rodgers. And I tell you what, it don't mean anything because they never go. Even if they've got the opportunity to go, they never go. Tom Brady's been like twice in 15 appearances.
Yeah.
Granted, some of that's because he's been in Super Bowls, but he doesn't go. He doesn't want to go because it don't mean anything to him. You see, when they play the game, they play it half-hearted. They're not bothered because they don't want to get injured.
Oh yeah,
wasted time.
the game itself is poor. The Pro Bowl,
Yeah.
if anybody does watch it or wants to watch it, it's just an exhibition of they play
Mm.
cornerbacks at wide receiver, they play wide receivers at corners. It's just an exhibition basically.
Yeah, it's a popularity contest, I think, and that's why the same people go over and over. In the NBA, Damian Lillard is an amazing point guard, probably one of the top 3 point guards in the league. Doesn't go to one because he can't beat Steph Curry, he can't beat Kyrie Irving you know what I mean? He can't beat these traditional the players that are the most popular in the league. They can't beat him in to get there, so he's never been a starter.
Yeah.
So they get in by coaches' votes because the coaches then vote for the people that actually are good players.
Mm-hmm.
But
and that's why I look forward to the end of a season when the NFL releases its top 100, because that's at least voted by other players. So that like it's the respect that the players have for each other as opposed to just fans thinking like, oh, he looks all right.
Yeah, who's my favourite player on the team, and all the Giants are voting for Saquon Barkley or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, that's happened this year,
but. So Sam Hubbard's in, Max Crosby's out. Last one for you.
I am removing Chandler Jones at outside linebacker and inserting Micah Parsons.
Oh, Dave,
look at
that.
Not all Cowboy hate. I don't particularly like him because I think he's an arsehole, but you cannot argue with the output that Micah Parsons has done this year. He's definitely going to be the defensive rookie of the year. He's definitely got a shot at being the actual defensive player of the year. And Chandler Jones has done wind since game 1. So let's put this. In game 1,
he had 5 sacks.
This year, he had 5 sacks. The rest of the other 14 games he's played in, he's got 4.5 sacks. This man's made the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, it's nuts.
He's got 33 total tackles compared to Micah Parsons, who's got 12 sacks and 76 actual tackles. Micah Parsons is not a middle linebacker. He's an outside linebacker. He should be played like that, off the edge, pressuring the quarterback because he's so fast and athletic. Yeah. That's where his game's strong. He's not strong in the pass game. He's not strong. He probably would be pretty good at the tackle game if that's all they played him at.
Yeah.
But I think to put him as a middle linebacker and snub somebody who's legitimately having an amazing season with 150 tackles is a bit of an insult. And I think he should be put as an outside linebacker and get rid of Chandler Jones.
That's such a democratic
there you go.
Shift of Pro Bowlage from
and I'll just
Dave.
add one more that I was gonna. He's my 4th one, but it was difficult to put in there. I considered putting Cordarrelle Patterson in for Deebo Samuel because they're the most like for like swap. But I think Deebo Samuel leads the 49ers in reception yards and rush yards. It's difficult to remove him.
Yeah.
Cordarrelle Patterson is having he's easily having a career year for him. He's been in the league a while, basically used as a punt and kick returner, whereas now we can actually see that he's a great dual threat running back / receiver.
Mm-hmm. No, it's fair. It's fair. Nice big shout out to Cordarrelle. So some Falcons love and some Cardinal snubs. That's what we're seeing.
Yeah.
Like it. I like it. Anything to snub the Cardinals. My last one is an easy one. Well, it's an easy one for me. On paper, I'm probably wrong again. This is, I'm bringing in Mike Williams from the Chargers, wide receiver, and I'm exiting Keenan Allen from the Chargers, who's a wide receiver. So stats wise, Keenan Allen has had 1,000 receiving yards, 1,007. Mike Williams has had 964. So very, very close, but Mike Williams has had 7 touchdowns. Keenan Allen has had 5. And I just think that Mike Williams has been the big name that you've seen every week when the Chargers have been playing. Keenan Allen's the safety net. Mike Williams is the star. And because Keenan Allen's getting older, and as I mentioned earlier, he's historically made the Pro Bowl so many times, I think people love him. And players love him. And apparently one of it, like his release and his get off at the line is apparently as good as anybody out there, bar Devontae Adams, because nobody is as good as him. But apparently he's that good that players just think he's immense. But for me, Mike Williams has been the player to watch at the Chargers as a receiver. And I would be removing Keenan Allen and putting Mike Williams in this year. Just because he's had more touchdowns.
He's been far more impactful, I think, than what the stats were probably. I mean, the stats are very similar, but he's been the guy that's gone up and caught them. He's obviously a big body receiver. He's been up, caught them. He catches a big 50-50 balls in the end zone that's getting heaved up to him. Yeah, I thought for half the season that Keenan Allen was injured. You've never heard him. Never heard his name.
I think he missed half of one game.
Yeah. And then if he's got 5 touchdowns, 2 of them came in the last game.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. And so that is it. That is the end of our Pro Bowl segment. And we're going to move into Sky Sports games. The games that are being played in the UK this week on Sky Sports. If you're sat about around Christmas time, what better time than to watch some NFL football? Dave, I want rapid fire, win prediction and score prediction. First game tomorrow, Christmas Eve, San Francisco 49ers taking on the Tennessee Titans in Tennessee.
The Niners win 17-10.
17-10. Okay. And I think that the 49ers also win, and I think they win 23 to Tennessee's 13. Next game, Christmas Day. After you've eaten all your dinner, fully stuffed with pigs in blankets, turkey, ham, gravy. I'm going to drown myself in gravy. The Cleveland Browns are taking on the Green Bay Packers. Saturday, the 25th of December, 9 o'clock p.m. GMT. Dave, who you got?
Where are they playing? They're running about on that frozen tundra.
They're on the tundra.
Oh,
they're in Lambeau.
The Packers are going to beat the Browns 35-12.
35-12.
They're going to take Aaron Rodgers is going to go out. He's going to have his Christmas dinner. He's going to fill himself full of stuffing, gravy. He's then going to take a huge shit on the Cleveland Browns. And there ain't nothing that Baker Mayfield or Case Keenum or whoever that other jabroni was that played last week can do about it.
Okay.
They are inferior.
Well, here we go. I am going controversial as hell. I think that the Green Bay Packers are going to lose to the Browns on Christmas Day. I think the Browns are going to go into Lambeau and take a big old frozen turd on the on the G in the middle of the pitch. It's going to come out as a frosty brown icicle and just spear into the middle of the pitch. And I think the Browns are going to beat the Packers, and I think they're going to beat them 20-17.
I think that I want whatever you're smoking.
20-17, that's my prediction. Boxing Day, Sunday the 26th. The Indianapolis Colts. This is a good game. Indianapolis Colts are taking on the Arizona Cardinals. At the Cardinals in Arizona.
I'm going to go with the Colts. I don't think there's something wrong with the Cardinals. They need a bounce back game. They need to basically play the Giants just to shit on a team, but they're not going to do it to the Colts. The Colts are too good. I think the Colts are going to win the Colts are going to win 20-14.
2014. Okay.
Yeah.
I also think the Colts are going to win, and I hope they do. I think they're going to win 27-23.
Okay.
I think Jonathan Taylor's going to go off again.
Yeah,
Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Kansas City Chiefs.
The Chiefs are going to score 76 points. No, I think the Chiefs win. The Chiefs win and they score 35. And the Steelers, who aren't going to score a point in the first quarter, are going to score 9.
Oh dear. Well, that'll be music to Mahomes' ears. I think it's going to be not quite as a bashing, but I think the Chiefs will win. I think the Chiefs are going to score 28 to the Steelers 17.
Coolio
Gangster Rhythms. And then the last one, Washington football team, aka Win Sox, taking on the Dallas Turd Boys, aka Cowboys.
This is their rival game. And I'm going to pick an upset. The Win Sox get Tyler Heineke back, and the Win Sox win 21-20.
21-20.
And Dak throws 3 interceptions.
That would be a Christmas treat.
Oh, I would love that.
It would be a Christmas treat. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going that way. I think the Cowboys straighten themselves up a little bit moving towards the playoffs. I think the Cowboys beat the Washington Win Sox. I'm going to go 27 to the Win Sox 10.
Okay.
And that is our Sky Sports games, and that is the end of In the End Zone UK episode 16. So, for those who have listened all the way through, much appreciated. We cherish you. We thank you. We ask you to share our podcast with everyone you know, football fans or non-football fans. And most importantly, from us here in the End Zone UK, we wish you a Merry Christmas.
Very merry.
Go and enjoy it. Have fun with family, friends, loved ones, past presents, eat food, drink beer and wine. And we will be back after Christmas. And most importantly, enjoy all the football over the Christmas period. And we'll be rounding it up next week.
Yeah. Take care of yourselves. Remember, life's not that serious. Don't let it get you down. If you're having a bad Christmas, watch some football, have some drinks, and just think it's all going to get better.
Ho, ho, ho. Merry everyone.